Chess and master data, planning and budgeting, reporting and execution. Finally, we reach to the phase of project closure. Project closure is nothing but period end closing. Procedures for period end closing. Period end closing is a framework that is used to perform period related commercial transactions. It is also used to ensure that all the data belonging to a period is determined and available for purposes of enterprise control. Period end closing procedures are performed in the background, usually once each period. Procedures are generally performed for the previous month at the beginning of the next month. We can use the schedule manager to help perform period end closing. The schedule manager supports workflows for finance, controlling and project system and so on. So the procedures for the period end closing we can see here: revaluation, overheads, project interest calculation, cost forecast, progress analysis, result analysis, incoming orders and settlement. So this is various activities of schedule manager. Now we'll see individually. Template allocation. Process costs are calculated based on the template selected for the project. Templates are created in customizing. The template is determined by the controlling area, costing sheet, overhead key and template environment for the function. Template environment 004 is used for networks, 005 is used for WBS elements. The costing sheet and overhead key values are defined in the control or assignments tab pages of the WBS elements, network header or network activities. After a template is selected, the calculation program determines each process in the template that applies to the project. How much of each process was consumed by the project. If the calculated value should be added to the project cost at the start and or continuously throughout the project. Now this is the actual template allocation. In the template we are considering quantity, plan and actual, activation, plan and actual, and how many should be allocated, constant or quantity formula, or under what condition allocation takes place, again cost and activation formula, and what is to be allocated, that is the objects. So this is the template. Now, revaluation at actual prices. We can determine the actual prices for activity types and business processes at the end of the process period. The actual prices are the actual costs divided by the quantities consumed. We control if valuation at actual prices is possible in customizing in the parameters for the actual version that depend upon the fiscal year. We also specify if revaluation at actual prices takes place separately for each activity type. We calculate the actual prices in overhead cost controlling. Revaluation at actual prices is performed in the period end closing process for the project. Cost objects are charged with the difference between the actual price and price originally allocated during the activity allocation. We can reevaluate activities and business processes at actual prices in the following components. project system, projects, WBS elements, networks, and network operations. In cost object controlling, for all cost objects, product cost collectors, production orders, and process orders, if they are being used as cost objects, sales order items, internal orders, cost object hierarchies, and general cost objects. So revaluation at actual price consisting of the cost center splitting to price calculation actual pricing. So we can, if we consider the other objects, internal orders, sales order items, general cost objects, production orders. Actual overhead allocation means actual overheads are calculated based on the costing sheet and overhead key entered on the WBS element, network header or network activity. Actual overhead calculation allocates cost objects with actual overheads. Overhead is allocated to cost objects using quantity based or percentage allocation rates. We can simulate overhead allocation. There is nothing but a test run. The overhead calculation process generates the following postings. Overhead expenses are charged to cost objects, which are network activities, network header, and WBS elements. The cost center or the overhead order process is credited. Costs are updated using the secondary cost elements specified in the credit rows in the costing sheet. Actual overhead calculation uses the costing sheet entered in the cost object. Next is progress analysis. We have been assigned the task of evaluating period end processes as a part of this process. We need to determine the percentage of completion for cost of network activities based on planned, actual, and commitment cost using the progress analysis. The percentage of completion describes the ratio of activity performed up to a key date as a percentage of total work for the activity or project. So the concept of progress analysis is percentage of completion. It specifies the project progress so far as a percentage. Describes the ratio of activity carried out up to a key date as a percentage of the total work for activity or project. It is determined on the basis of the chosen measurement method. Earned value. Earned value of the work done in the project describes the cost corresponding with the percentage of completion of a project element. The system distinguishes between three values. Values not aggregated, which are displayed for each object. Aggregated values are aggregated in line with the project hierarchy, whereas various weighting can be applied. Costing and profitability analysis. The system determines the aggregated percent of completion for the billing element. The aggregation includes project elements that are subordinate to the billing element in the billing structure. Percentage of completions are recorded under statistical key figures. For reporting purposes, statistical key figures are assigned to value categories. The term earned value describes cost corresponding to the percentage of completion of an activity or project. It is the result of applying the overall planned cost to the percentage of completion. Overall planned costs are accumulated planned cost and the budget. If we want to efficiently control the project, we need to do more than individually studying costs, resources, and schedules. Now, the functions of progress analysis we can see over here. we are using various terms like percentage of completion, cost variance, schedule variance, budgeted cost of work scheduled, budgeted cost of work performed. So these two figures will be evaluated: BCWS, BCWP, and actual cost. So these will be evaluated at a given date. One is with the time variance, one is with the cost variance. We can draw informed conclusions on the progress and current status of the project only when we compare these values with actual results. Progress analysis enables to do this. It is suitable both for internal control of a project and for external reporting. We can estimate the percentage of completion of WBS elements, activities, and activity elements. We can also calculate percent of completion automatically using existing data. In both cases, a planned percent of completion and an actual percent of completion is determined. That means expected versus actual. By specifying a weighting factor, that is, for example, planned cost, we can aggregate these values in the WBS. The system uses a factor such as planned cost to calculate progress values from percent of completions. Those are budget cost of work schedule, cost according to planned progress, budgeted cost of work performed, targeted cost according to actual progress, and the actual costs are actually incurred. Comparing earned values provides important information. By comparing BCWS with BCWP, work scheduled and work planned like that, we can determine any deviations from the schedule. By comparing the BCWP with actual cost, we can determine any cost variances. End value analysis can be stored in a separate plan version and evaluated using the structure information system or the control information system. Measurement techniques determine how the progress value is calculated, that is, planned versus actual. The following measurement techniques are available in the SAP system: start or finish rule, estimation, milestone technique, time proportionality, cost proportionality, quantity proportionality, secondary proportionality, user defined techniques. We define default measurement techniques for each object, that is in WBS element, activity, or a project orders in customizing. If required, we can override these defaults in the project structures also. The system uses specific weighting factors to summarize progress values in the project structure. One such weighting factor is project cost plan. So the measurement methods we can see over here based upon start and finish, quantity proportional, that is statistical key figure based, secondary proportionality, degrees of processing, time proportional, estimation, milestone, cost proportional. We can use percentage of completions as end values for the result analysis. To do so, we have to choose the technique 07 POC method based on project end value analysis in the result analysis and enter the plan version of the end value analysis. The percent of completion and earn value are important project key figures. We can analyze them at the level of individual project elements are aggregated for the whole project or sub-project like other project key figures. Progress analysis values are available in the following report types: degree of processing only for activities, structured oriented report and progress analysis, drill down hierarchy report, report painter, or report writer reports. We can use the structure overview to evaluate the percent of completion and earned value. The system displays the values in line with the project hierarchy. We can use the structure overview to evaluate the percent of completion and the earned value in the following configurations, like aggregated, not aggregated, not corrected, corrected. From the hierarchical display, we can navigate to a project object in the period breakdown and to the graphical display. So this is the structural overview and progress display. Now we'll see the workbench for progress analysis. The progress analysis workbench consolidates project information into one interface for maintaining data instead. The workbench allows the user to easily input status information into projects. It is intended to help the day-to-day user make their job easier. Projects can be selected by project objects like project definition, WBS elements, network, or network activities. For each project, we can select the data using filters such as object status, not started, not completed, like that, date ranges for early and late basic dates, floats, the difference in early and late finish dates. We can use the progress analysis workbench to display and edit data such as user and system statuses, dates, and costing information. The progress analysis workbench provides a single point of entry for which we can view project objects with key performance data for quick analysis. This allows for intelligent decision making when updating the status. Update the status and user status of project objects. Update the actual start and finish date for activities and activity elements. Update data related to the project progress. Update the percentage complete for earned value calculations. Import export data between progress analysis workbench and Microsoft Excel. These are the major single point of entry forms. So this is for project parameters and analysis parameters, and this is the workbench information. Now we'll see the next one is result analysis. Result analysis is a periodic process that determines the costs and revenues for a period based on planned costs and revenues and the percentage of completion. By comparing these results with actual postings recorded previously in the financial accounting, the analysis provides a posting in financial accounting, work in progress, reserves. Also, a few results can be posted to profitability analysis to ensure that the period results in finance accounting are the same as those reorganized in profitability analysis. The first stage of result analysis involves calculating the following values: inventory values, reserves for unrealized costs, reserves for imminent loss, reserves for complaints, warranties, and commissions, cost of sales. We can settle the following financial accounting and profit center: accounting, inventory values, reserves for unrealized costs, reserves for imminent loss, reserves for complaints and commissions. The cost of sales if we are using non-valuated project stock and are balancing in FI with the cost of sales accounting method. We can settle the following to profitable analysis. Those are cost of sales of correlated revenue, reserves for imminent loss, and complaints. So the overview of result analysis is planned value and actual value, and percentage of completion, and result analysis determines, and result analysis. Now we'll see the project settlement. Projects collect costs and revenues during the account period so that they can be analyzed against plan and budget values. The values in the project must be settled to their appropriate cost or accounting area. Revenue and cost of sales is settled to profitability analysis. Settlement will cause financial entries for any work in process cost in the project. Settlement will create financial entries for any cost that need to be capitalized in asset management. Costs and revenues are collected in projects only temporarily. They are settled to one or more receivers as part of period end processing. In settlement, the actual costs incurred in a commercial object are allocated in whole or in part to one or more receivers. Offset postings that credit the sender object are generally generated automatically. The debit postings assigned to the sender object remain after settlement is performed and can be displayed. So in the settlement aspects, the settled costs are updated to the respective receiver objects and are displayed in reporting. So the aspects of settlement consist of source structures, settlement cost, collective processing, individual processing, fixed amounts by cost elements, and line item settlement. If you see the debit and credit part, the actual cost and actual revenues occur in project are ordered as a result of material withdrawals and goods receipt, vendor invoices, customer billing, internal activity allocations, transfers, cost distribution, process costs, and overhead. Confirmation of network activities. In settlement, costs and revenues are transferred to finance accounting, asset accounting, cost accounting, profitability analysis, project system. We need a settlement rule to perform settlement. We define the settlement rule in the sender object. The settlement rule contains distribution rules and settlement parameters for a sender object. So, as a part of debit and credit, the various activities will take place in cross applications. Material withdrawal, or that is goods receipt, in the material management, invoices in finance, activity allocation, transfers, distribution, overheads, process cost in costing, confirmations in project system will have settlement rules as receivers, distribution rule, and settlement. Finally, tap and set, asset management, finance and controlling, sales order, and process system WBS elements. In the settlement rules, we can maintain the settlement rule for WBS elements or networks and activities in a overview screen. Use distribution rules to specify the proportion of cost that should be settled to receivers. Cost can be distributed on the basis of percentage, equivalence numbers, fixed amounts. Two types of settlements are there as periodic and full. In periodic settlement, only the costs of the period for which we specify settlement are settled. In full settlement, the cost for all periods up to the one we specify in settlement are settled. We can branch from the overview screen to a settlement rule. Parameter screen that is used to change the settlement profile or structure that it calls. Settlement rules for WBS elements are determined by various strategies. We define these strategies in customizing. Results analysis is usually performed for billing elements in sales projects. The resulting analysis data includes the cost and revenues of lower level WBS elements and activities orders. For this reason, only the result analysis elements are settled. When the system derives settlement rules, it generates profitability segments that contain the characteristic values of WBS elements and sales orders assigned to them. Settlement rules and results analysis keys are only ever assigned to billing elements. All other objects are assigned the settlement profile do not settle. In the case of cost elements, the system can derive the settlement rule for WBS elements from the cost center or the requesting cost center. A settlement rule can also be passed from a higher level WBS element to the lower level WBS elements. This can occur over several levels, but the rule can only be inherited by WBS elements that do not have a settlement rule of their own. The settlement strategy for WBS elements can be used to automatically determine a settlement rule. The determination of settlement profile and results analysis key is based on WBS operative indicators for account assignment and billing element. Result analysis is executed for each billing element with an organizational change. This enables resource and work in progress to be calculated for each organizational unit. The settlement strategy profile is assigned to the project profile. We can define a strategy to determine the settlement rule in networks and activities. In this strategy, we specify the sequence in which the settlement rule should be determined. Use the settlement rule of the WBS element, use the settlement rule of the project definition, generate a settlement rule using the default rule, generate a settlement rule for the WBS element, manual maintenance of settlement rule. A settlement strategy can be assigned to parameters for the network type and plant. The strategy determines the priority to assign the default settlement rule. The strategy is executed left to right. The first successful settlement rule is assigned to the network or network activity based on the account assignment object. If we use no settlement rule, costs are settled directly from assigned WBS element. So if you see settlement rules for network activities, as settlement as WBS element and project definition are a two WBS element, default rule, manual settlement rule, no settlement rule. So these we can consider. Now next thing is investment profile functions. The most important customizing parameter for investment management is the investment profile. By assigning an investment profile to a WBS element, we identify the WBS element as an investment measure. The following can be specified in the investment profile. Automatic creation of asset under construction when the order or WBS element is released. Asset class to be used when the asset under construction is created. Asset class that supplies the depreciation terms for the depreciation simulation. If the default asset class can be changed when we create the order or WBS element. Asset under construction per source structure and source assignment. This function is not relevant unless we want to have an asset under construction for each source assignment in source structure rather than just one asset under construction overall. If we choose this method, the system debits a separate asset under construction for each cost element that belongs to the source assignment. It is possible to maintain all settings that are necessary to offset all settled actual values against the depreciation simulation data exactly for each asset class. Actual costs on investment measures arises from postings in financial accounting, goods movement in material management, internal activity allocation, and overhead within controlling. The account assignment object for acquisition postings is the order or the WBS element of the investment measure. The asset under construction that belongs to the investment measure cannot be posted directly. The split of those costs requiring capitalization from costs not requiring capitalization takes place during the periodic settlement. The periodic settlement credits the order or WBS element and moves the amount that require capitalization from cost to the balance sheet. The amounts requiring capitalization are thereby shown in management accounting only temporarily as primary costs until the period end closing takes place. Costs that do not require capitalization can be settled to controlling receivers. During the settlement of investment measures, there are always two different processing types: periodic settlement at the close of the period, full settlement or partial capitalization of the investment measure at its completion. During the periodic settlement, the system automatically settles as debits to the asset under construction that belongs to the measure. We do not have to create separate settlement rule for this process. Often the allocation price for internally activity and the price of stock from the warehouse also include overhead. Usually tax regulations or other legal restrictions forbid capitalizing these overhead costs. From the point of view of measurement accounting and product cost planning, it is desirable to capitalize 100% of all debits on investment measures to level large cost blocks by means of depreciation. To meet this need, we can specify that amounts from certain cost elements or cost element groups are capitalized only in certain depreciation areas of asset under construction. The system separates out costs that are not capitalized and treats them as non-operating expenses. Full settlement takes place when the investment measure is completed. During full settlement, the system automatically settles the amounts on the asset under construction to complete fixed assets. So in the investment profile, which will be assigned to project profile, here the investment measure will be considered as WBS element, and whenever we release the WBS element, the automatic creation of asset under construction will take place. So in the investment profile, we are considering manage asset under construction. That means here it is generating asset under construction automatically when the investment measure has been released, and default asset class we are assigning to it. When we call the proof of origin for a fixed asset that was maintained as a receiver for summary settlement in an investment measure, we see that the various settlements appear as acquisition postings. The document number is the number of the settlement document when the investment measure was managed for line item settlement. We also see the document numbers of the line items that were posted to the measure. If the investment measure is complete in stages, we can carry out settlement to fixed assets more than once. The capitalization posting does not automatically close the investment measure. So the settlement of investment measure takes care of when debits during construction phase, that means the purchase orders, down payments, acquisitions, internal activity, and in the WBS element, budget, planned value, commitment value, actual values. The periodic settlement will take place, that will be transferred to asset under construction periodically, and actual values placed on cost center. Then whenever we do the full settlement, it will go to the assets. The assets, we can take any number of assets. So this is the cycle of settlement of a investment measure here, that is WBS element. Now if we consider what are the parameters are there in the settlement, in direct settlement, each object in a project is settled directly to a cost object not included in the project, such as a profitability segment. In multi-level segment, activities, orders and WBS elements are first settled to the top WBS element in the project. The top WBS element then settles the cost collected. Specify which of these we want to use when we maintain or determine the settlement rule. Multi-level settlement is used for settlement to WBS elements of other projects or internal orders. Direct settlement is used for settlement of project system structures to receive outside the project. In customer projects, result analysis is performed before settlement. The settlement only settles the objects for which results analysis has been performed. Orders and WBS elements without their own work in progress should have a settlement profile set to do not settle. So if you see the multi-level and direct settlement, wherever the direct settlement is happening, all the objects involved in a project and externally will be settled to at one place. And in the multi-level, it is happening different objects into one and single object to final settlement. The settlement profile is the central control parameter for settlement. We enter it in the project profile or order type. It then proposes the allocation structure, profitability analysis transfer structure and source structure for orders with this order type. The allocation structure controls the assignment of source cost elements to settlement cost elements for each receiver. We can also choose to settle by cost element. The profitability analysis transfer structure controls the assignment of cost elements to value fields in profitability analysis. It is required only to settle projects directly to operating result. If we want to settle to various receivers according to the source cost elements posted in the order, use the source structure technique. So if you consider the indicators in a settlement profile, one is as a default values, allocation structure, source structure and profitability analysis transfer structure. Permitted receivers are project, asset. Indicators are percentage, amount settlement, 100% check, equivalent numbers, do not settle. Other parameters, document type and number of rules. And in the allocation structure, source cost element, settlement cost element, individual by cost element also we can configure. In the source structure, cost element interval, cost element group, origin and settlement rule. Profitability analysis transfer structure, cost element groups, revenue element groups, profitability segment value fields also configured. These settlement profile will be assigned to project profile and network types. Allocation structure. The allocation structure controls the conversion of cost elements to settlement cost elements. Settlement by original cost element is also possible. To use the allocation structure, we need to create cost element groups that aggregates the primary and secondary cost elements used for debit posting to orders. In customizing, link the cost element group to the allocation structure with a settlement assignment. For each settlement assignment, specify by receiver type if the settlement should use the original posted cost elements or a designated settlement cost element. Similarly, the profitability analysis transfer structure controls the conversion of cost elements to profitability analysis value fields. A profitability analysis transfer structure is required only if we want to settle a costing based profitability segment. Otherwise, we need not to assign the profitability analysis transfer structure. We define a profitability analysis transfer structure if we want to settle the cost and revenues for a project to a profitability segment. The profitability analysis transfer structure specifies the costs and revenues that should be settled to costing based profitability analysis. It classifies debit cost elements by assignment line and assigns assignment lines to value fields in an operating unit. The profitability analysis transfer structure comprises one or more items called assignment lines. Note that when defining a profitability analysis transfer structure, each debit cost element should be represented in profitability analysis transfer structure. The category for debit cost element is called cost elements. If we do not perform result analysis, the actual costs and revenues are settled to the profitability segment for the project WBS element. All cost elements under which costs and revenues are recorded in WBS element should be represented in the profitability analysis transfer structure. If we perform result analysis, the result analysis data, which is valuated actual revenue, cost of sales and reserves for imminent losses, is settled to the profitability analysis segment. All the results analysis cost elements in which data that affects profitability analysis is recorded should be represented in profitability analysis transfer structure. After execution, now the closure of the project, period and closing. So before proceeding for the period closing, we'll check some prerequisites customized settings in customizing guide, that is SPRO. In the customizing guide, we'll go to project systems. Here we need to check the settlement profile and allocation structure for the settlement profile. So we'll go to project systems, then costs, then we'll go to cost, and in the automatic and period allocations and settlement, and in the settlement we'll go to settlement profile. Here we'll check for the allocation structure. So in the allocation structure, we need to check this is the allocation structure, whether the assignment is there and for the assignment source. Now the cost element group what is maintained in this group, the cost elements are assigned or not, we need to check. The transaction code for cost element group is KH3. Now this cost element group is OAS MANTE. So here we need to check the cost elements are available or not. If are available, the used cost elements which are in the project all are codified or not. This is we need to check in the source. Now this is assessment cost element if required, settlement cost element. Here we are considering fixed asset and WBS. Now the next thing will be settlement profile. The settlement profile will be for the project systems. So here we are created the settlement profile for asset under construction. So here to be settled full, and allocation structure is PS, the same we are using, and fixed asset is settlement allowed, and 100 maximum distribution rules, 12 residence month time, and 100% validation, percentage settlement, equivalence, these are required. So for the network also we supposed to create. For the network, the profile will be again allocation structure will be PS, only the change is object type is WBS and allowed receivers is WBS element, and here 100% validation is not there, and document type is GL account. Maximum distribution rules are 3. So these things we need to ensure before proceeding for the period end closing. And the next thing what we have considered is investment class are there or not, like project as investment measure. In this master data, WBS elements, define field, no, this is asset under construction, define asset classes. Here we are defining the asset under AUC, that is already there. So we have worked with the WBS elements. So this asset under construction, account determination, and screen layout rule. Now next thing is investment profile. The investment profile what we have created, that has to be assigned to the project profile also. So this is the investment profile. In the investment profile, AUC will be assigned. Now we'll check whether this we need to check that the investment profile has been assigned to project profile. So for this project, this profile has been assigned. Now the next thing is we'll go for the settlement. Before settlement, we need to check in the project whether all the WBS elements and network elements are having the settlement rules and those are released. So here we are using project 1401. So just we need to ensure WBS element will be as a sender. So now we'll go to the networks. In the network activities, we have to check. So in the network activities, settlement rule is already created. If required, we can check the settlement rule for the network activities. So here edit cost settlement rule. This is the WBS element has been maintained as a. So similarly we can check for any other network also. Now we'll go to settlement will be standard menu, logistics and project systems. Project system and then financials, period end closing. In the period end closing, single function, then this is the settlement for the individual processing CJ88. So our project is U3000.1401 with hierarchy, with orders. That means all the WBS elements, all the network and activities. Period will be 2014. Initially we run for this test run. Automatic, this is a periodic settlement, or partial capitalization and full settlement. That will do. So now we'll execute for this WBS elements and networks and activities. So if any errors are there, system will prompt us for the errors and total number of senders. So here our receivers will be WBS elements. After doing the settlement, we have to do the closure of the project. Now there are 3 executions are happened: test run, and if any errors are there, this is the error message, and this is the detail list. So here from the network, the cost will be transferring to these WBSs. So these are the values for the WBSs, WB1 and CH1. So now since there are no errors, so we can transfer the amount. That means we can do the actual execution of the settlement. Now we can see the settlement result. There are 2 warning messages. So the warning message, asset under construction not completely created. That means if any value may not be left over, and three objects has been done. Now we'll see once the settlement has been completed. Now we'll go and check the project. In this project, the WBS elements, once the settlement is over, networks to WBS, this WBS element will get a settlement rule. So we can see the settlement rule of the WBS element, which will be automatically generated by the system from WBS to AUC. So this is a settlement rule created by system, this WBS amount to be being transferred to AUC. So similar way, we can check wherever the cost is transferred, there this WBS element will be generated. Now here settlement rule again created, so we can check the settlement rule for this WBS. It has been created by the system. Now in this WBS element, if you go to the asset under construction, asset values, we can check the asset value. Basically the network activities cost will be pushed to WBS, then that WBS cost will be pushed to asset under construction. Then finally during the capitalization, this will be done to asset what we are creating. So we are checking the asset value against asset under construction, the value which is stored it from network to WBS, WBS to AUC. So if there is cost is transferred, we can check it out from the asset values in the current financial year. So we can see over here $1,500 has been transferred to this asset on this particular date. So this always period end date with the transaction type 114. In a similar way, we can check the asset under construction value, asset value for this WBS also. So asset value from the network activities to WBS, then WBS to AUC. So this value here also we can check it out. So totally whatever settlement has been done, finally it has reached to here. Now for this WBS we have to create the final asset for the capitalization. For that purpose we have to create a asset for this purpose. Now the transaction code is AS01 for the asset creation. Now asset class we are considering as a asset class as plant and equipment. So here we are creating the asset. So the description will be plant machinery from project. So this is the description we are giving, and business area and the plant 3000, the location and investment region also we can select. Investment region is replacement, then 10 net worth insurance and depreciation for this asset under class. So we are saving this asset. Now one asset has been created. Now this asset we have to use for the settlement of the WBS. So for editing the WBS we have to go to CJIC transaction. Otherwise we can check in the in the transaction path, standard menu, logistics, then project system, and then financials, then year-end closing, period-end closing, single functions. We can create the settlement rule. This is individual processing and year-end setting. This is single functions and settlement. Then this is CJIC. In the CJIC we have to give the WBS element from the WBS element. This settlement rule has been created, so this WBS element will give and will execute. So it will show the line items which need to be settled to final asset. So we'll go to this final settlement. So this is the WBS element and this will be fixed asset, and we have to use the asset. Where is the asset? We have created one asset. This is 1-0 100%, and we have to consider full settlement, full or a periodic. We can consider both also if required. So if this is a period equivalence number, so we have created one rule, save. Similarly, we'll create the simulation rule for one more WBS element, for which the settlement rule has been created. So the settlement rule has been created for this. For this also we have to create the distribution rule. Final settlement distribution rule we are creating. Fixed asset, then asset number, and 100% equivalence. So here we have created one. Now we have to do the partial capitalization as well as the same project. Partial capitalization we do, then final settlement. So there are two errors for the partial capitalization. Error during transfer, depreciation area does not exist. Check the transfer variant and receiving asset. Transfer variant 5, depreciation 42 should be transferred gross. However, receiver element does not manage this. 42 should be gross. Okay. So we'll maintain the depreciation area for that class. Now we'll see the settings for the depreciation areas in the customizing. So we'll go to customizing guide. In the customizing guide we need to go to determine depreciation areas in the asset class. This is under investment management, project as investment measures, master data, asset under construction, and define asset class. Now determine depreciation areas in the asset class. Now we are taking the class as 5. Now here the 42 area is not there, so it is activated. Area has been activated. Now we need to create one more asset, because the original asset what we have created, this doesn't have. So the asset what we have assigned to the WBS element, it doesn't have the depreciation area 42. So we have to create new asset, and here in the new asset 42 has come. Now again we need to go to the settlement rule, assigning the settlement rule. In the settlement rule we have to change that value from 1 to 2. So the new asset has been changed for both the WBS elements. So we'll go to project builder again, another WBS element. For this also we'll change the value from one to 2. Now we'll go to the settlement. Here we'll do the test run for the partial capitalization. Now there are no errors. Now we can see the same amount will be pushed to the asset what we have created, that is 3 all zeros 2. Now we'll take out the test run and we'll execute the same. Now we'll see the result over here. This is successful. So the amount has been transferred to fixed asset. Now in the WBS, now we can do the, if further there is no commitments postings from the WBS element, then we can do the final settlement for this WBS element from this AEC to asset under construction. So this is the full settlement. With orders. Now we'll go back to the project. Here we'll see we'll go to CJ20N, go to the project 1401. Now this is the WBS element where settlement we have done. So if you see the asset under construction, the capitalized on 2802 also first acquisition, and this is the capitalization. The capitalization also happened. Now we can see the one minus entry, it has been transferred to the asset. Now similarly we can check for the other WBS element. So once the value has been transferred from the asset under construction to the asset, here also this is capitalized. So here also minus value has come. So now this entirely capitalization has been done from this project. Here we consider only for the 2 WBS elements. We can consider for the all WBS elements in the real scenario, and we can do the settlement of this. Now the next step will be, what we have to do, we have to close the networks as well as WBS elements. After technical completion, we have to do the closure also. So this is the final step for the project for the closure. So we'll go to status, close technically first for this network, then status close. Then the status will be changed from TECO to CLSD. That means this network has been closed. It has been closed. Now we'll save, and we can see for the activities also the status will be updated as closed. Now we'll go back and check the activity status. All closed. If you see the external processing activities, there are no external process activities, and in the activity elements the status also closed. Now we'll do the similar thing for the other networks. From the project builder also we can carry out the same thing. The only difference is, if you are doing from the project builder, it will be affected to network also, for the to WBS elements also. So if we do the individually, this is directly will be completed. So this warning message is coming just because of some of the activities are not fully confirmed. Those are partially confirmed. So the system is prompting the message for the confirmation. Now we can see here these are all closed, and this is also closed. Similarly, we go for another network, that is E. The status is TECO, so we are doing close. We can see the status information. One purchase order commitment is pending. That means while doing the invoice, if we are not set the close indicator, this information will come. This is the only warning message. This can be ignored, or while invoice processing we can do this. We'll go to activities, then we can see the status CLSD. Here also we can see the status CLSD. Now we'll go for last network, that is P. So here the status is TECO, we are doing the close. Status save, we can take the activity status, that is also close. Now we'll go to the project builder, or we can do from WBS change also. We are going to this WBS overview. Now first of all we'll check the status, all WBS. Now this is the top WBS. This is release, and some are these also release. So we'll try to put the technical completion at the top level. Now automatically all the WBS will be done technical completion. So we are saving this. Now we'll go once again. transaction is locked. Now this status all technical completion, so we'll select one at the top and we technical complete is already there, we can go for close. So this status will be set CLSD for all the WBS elements. That means nothing but a project is closed. So we need to check stock still exists for WBS element. So stock exists for WBS element. So we need to withdraw the stock from that WBS element. So this is the WBS element. We'll save it and we'll go to Migo transaction. So we have to withdraw the stock. We can check what is the stock is available over there. We can do the remaining WBS elements and E, this one also we can carry out the status as close. Now we can see these bottom WBS elements status has been set closed. This is saved. Now we will close the other WBS elements. What are the other WBS elements? Now the issue up to here, this is finished. This is having the issue. So this one we can do, these two we cannot do, this is also we can do, these also we can do, this we cannot do. So these many we can put the status as close, because this WBS has stock, so we have to clear the stock from the WBS. Now we'll see the what is the error message once again. We'll try to put the close status. Status information is having stock still exists. Stock still exists for WBS element. Now we need to check what is the stock is available. So what is the stock available in this WBS element? Go to project builder. This is the WBS element. For this WBS element, it doesn't have any stock. Okay, okay. Now what we need to do is we'll go to Migo transaction. This, where is Migo? This is Migo. Here we need to transfer posting, then project to own. This is 411. Project to own. From the project, this is from, slip number is 2345. Now we need to find out what is the where. The where is project to own. Where is the WBS element? Material quantity where. So we need to find out stock against a WBS element. Stock against a WBS element. Other settlement. We'll check it out the component for which is we'll go to material. We'll go to material. Stock, yeah, requirement list, order report, receipt and MRP list, execution, stock list, assign sales or odd material. We will go to the project 0 number 2. To know the material. Now from this WBS element, whatever stock is there, 10 stock is there for a material rotary head. So we are transferring back to plant stock with the movement type 411Q. So whatever stock is there in the WBS element, that we are clearing out, so that this project can be closed. Now once this transaction is successful, then we'll go back to CJ02 again. Then we'll take the same project, for the closure of rest of WBS elements and finally the project closure. So the stock withdrawal from the WBS element is in the progress. Now this transaction is successful. The entire quantity has been taken out from this. Now against this material, the entire stock has been transferred back to the plant stock. Now we can go back to the project, and whatever WBS elements we are left over for the closure, we can close them. So like if you consider this or directly this also, will close the project entirely. Again some stock still exists. Oh my god. To check the stock against a WBS element or a special stock, the transaction code is MBBS and this is the WBS element. Then we see what are the stocks are available. So this is the material stock is still exist in the WBS. So we'll go to transfer posting again, 411, and this is the material, and plant 3000 001, and WBS element will be the same, and quantity will be 2. So we are the reference, then posting. So this is we are posting for to clear the. Now again we will check if any validated stock is there. No, this stock is 0. Now we'll go back to the project, then we will do the close. So the status has been, all WBS elements has been set to CLSD. So same thing we can check from project builder also. If you go to the project builder, so finally this project status has been set closed. So this is the final step for a project having the closure after doing the execution, then settlement period and settlement, then finally we are setting the status to closure. Now we can now all the WBS elements from the first level to last level set the status to closure. Now we can put the status closure for the project definition also. We can put the project definition status from the project builder, or we can go to logistic. From here also we can set the status to close. Status we are checking for this close. So this project has been closed. So project system, then again project, the create project. So change project also we can do CJ20, and now this is status is CLSD. So we have seen some reports during the execution phase, before the execution phase also, about the cost reports and progress report, progress tracking and progress analysis. These things we can be checked, but due to the project has to be completed in all respects, so we are finished. Though that is we can check the same way what we have created, how we are created and configured like that. Now this project is completely closed. So this ends the entire project life cycle and the project system.